Welcome to Leaping Larry's Revolutionary Reading Theatre.
We actually read a good thing about watched a good thing from DPRK about the UN command um, in Korea, which I do highly recommend. Quite good. Fine. Yeah, right here. This one. This one specifically talks about the UN command in Korea. That one. Good one. But today we are reading more from On the Juche philosophy, which is this compilation work. Oh yeah, I always forget about that. So we've read this one already, and we are on the Juche idea. We're on this part right here, chapter 3, part number 2. What we're gonna read right now. Human history is the history of the people's struggle for independence. If you want a link to the reading, I leave it right here. Yeah, that's sneaky as fuck. Yeah, I have to get into that habit. Started doing it pretty recently. God damn, thank you. So, the chapter that we're on now, as I mentioned before, we're learning about the historical outlook of Juche philosophy, which can be thought of as being essentially something like an analysis of social history, much the same way that historical materialism is, right? Not to be, as I constantly reiterate, not to be confused with um, historical, or not to be confused with dialectical materialism in general, which is still what premises Juche. I was about to bring something up, but I forgot. Oh yes, here we go. I just wanted to mention that if you do want to watch any of my old recordings, you can go to my channel here. When I'm offline or whatever, you just go to my channel, go to videos, and I have all my live readings here in this playlist, which is where the last Juche philosophy readings end up going as well. And I also have it in my YouTube. Well, go to my YouTube. Playlists. I have a live readings playlist right here. Oh, there you go. You can get all my live readings right there. All right, Jay. Good night, comrade. Thank you for stopping in. This chapter we're on today, or this evening, is Human History is the history of the people struggle for independence. Which, as I mentioned briefly last time, is really like a beautiful way of summing up what precedes and what comes after class struggle, right? Like, we know that Marx's phrase, all hitherto recorded history is the history of class struggle, but we know that, of course, human development preceded classes, right? And even in some areas where classes had broken out, in other areas, there had never been the creation of classes that were antagonistic to the point of one dominating and subjugating the other. And at the same time, the other reason why it's important to try and understand this social movement is that once socialism is accomplished, society is no longer based on class antagonisms. Of course, that doesn't deny that the class struggle continues, and that we still have to fight against counter-revolutionary elements. But the fundamental nature of society has changed in a socialist society, which is why, at the beginning, Marx really first referred to socialism as the lower stage of communism interchangeably, right? Which is what it is. The 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 socialist revolution represents a break with class-based society and the building of a new society and the skeleton of what is to come without classes, right? So while it still has the hangovers of capitalist society within it, at the same time it is a fundamentally different society, or like a qualitatively different society. Whereas communism, compared to socialism, is a quantitatively different society. You can think of like building socialism, socialist construction, as being the continuing revolution in order to materialize the higher stage of socialism, communism. Anyways, I'm rambling before we even begin. The history of human society is the history of the struggle of the masses to defend and realize independence. The leader said that all revolutionary struggles are struggles of the masses to defend their independence. Throughout the long history of human society, people have ceaselessly struggled to free themselves from the fetters of society and nature. All the struggles to transform society, nature, and humanity are struggles to defend and realize independence for the masses of the people. Struggle for social reform is an undertaking of the masses to provide themselves with social and political conditions for their independent life, free from class and national subjugation. They are to live and act independently. People must destroy the outdated social system which tramples upon independence. Only when they wipe out old social institutions and set up a social system which provides people with independence will the masses of people be able to become true masters of society and their destiny and lead an independent life. Of course, that is what the struggle for socialism is, right? The struggle to put that power into the hands of the people. The struggle to transform nature is an effort of the masses to create material conditions for an independent life free from the fetters of nature. People are to live and make progress, they must work to harness nature and produce material wealth. Only through the transformation and conquest of nature can they free themselves from its fetters and prepare material conditions for an independent life. Struggle to transform humanity is the struggle of the masses to create ideological and cultural conditions for an independent life, free from the shackles of outdated ideas and culture. Only when they are completely free from the shackles of outdated ideas and culture and acquire the consciousness of independence and sound culture will people be able to hold their destiny firmly in their hands, reshape it, and live and act genuinely as independent beings. And we can think about like the kind of attitudes and cultural norms that would have to be changed that are like today. We were actually talking about it when thinking about cartoons, right? The sort of individualist attitudes that are instilled in people compared to the kind of collectivist attitudes that socialism seeks to foster, right? The wanting to bring love for the people into bloom, as Kim Jong Il said. The transformation of society, nature, and people is the main element of the massive struggle for independence. Humanity can realize independence completely only when they are free from social bondage, natural fetters, and the shackles of outdated idea and culture. Struggle for independence should be carried out on a full scale in all spheres of social reform, natural transformation, and human remolding. The primary question arising in the struggle of the masses for independence is to realize independence socially and politically. Since humanity is a social being, independence must first be guaranteed socially and politically. This is the key to humanity's freedom from natural fetters and also to his ideological and cultural development. As long as they are subjugated socially and politically, the masses of the people cannot adequately benefit from the productive forces, even if these are developed, nor can they be free from the bondage of reactionary ideas and culture. The history of human society ever since its division into hostile classes has been, above all, a history of social revolutions to realize social and political independence for the masses. Through social revolutions, the masses have carved out their destiny and developed society. Owing to the slave revolts, which, so to speak, the first struggle in the history of the exploited working masses for independence, and to peasant struggles against feudalism in the Middle Ages, the slavery and the feudal system collapsed. That meant progress in the struggle of the working masses of the chains of slavery with the feudal fetters. Meant a progress in the struggle of the working masses for independence, but that was only a replacement of the chains of slavery with feudal fetters, which in turn were replaced with the yoke of capital. I like this framing better because it doesn't imply like a progressive element to capitalism, merely that capitalism was a progress because it represented the masses struggling to realize more and more their independence from the class-based society as a whole and individualism. Not the abolition of class domination and oppression itself. In the history of human society, capitalism is the last exploitating system, which tramples upon the masses' aspirations and demands for independence. It is a violently oppressive system, which combines class domination with national oppression. The liquidation of the capitalist system and establishment of a new socialist system mark a historic turning point in the development of revolutionary struggle for independence. With the establishment of the socialist system, all exploiting classes and institutions which trample upon aspirations and demands of the masses for independence are abolished, and the masses are provided with the necessary conditions which enable them to hold state power and production means in their hands and lead a fully independent life. I mentioned before how, like, one way this is expressed in the very fact that you don't have all this, what we know as the liberal democracy, which is all of these various parties essentially pretending to fight for state power, to fight for the state organs. Whereas in a socialist society, that circus is removed, and instead the people vote and change policy itself. And the various parties work together to try and build socialism, although they have different ideas on how to get there. And sometimes opinions of like a different party might end up informing the Workers' Party, the whole as well, right? Like a cooperative relationship between these different parties in any socialist society versus a capitalist society, which is why they don't like run in that same dynamic of one party running over the other to gain like this hold over state organs. And in any socialist society, even the leading constitutionally leading workers' party is not does not take direct hold of state organs. Most important job of the party, of course, as I always try to highlight, is that it is an ideological leader, right? And that it seeks to turn the socialist society into a big school. The transformation of nature and man, along with social reform, is an important historic task in the struggle of the masses for independence. I mean, I'm sure that's a part of it. I can't begin to speculate entirely as to why, but I would not be surprised if that is definitely part of it. Yeah. In the whole course of development of human society, the masses of the people have continuously struggled to free themselves from the masses of nature and enhance themselves ideologically and culturally. At the dawn of human society, people's creative power were weak, and their ideological and cultural levels were very low. By their age long, hard fought struggles, the masses have increased their ability to conquer nature, enrich their knowledge. Although, we can really reterm this. Again, I'm here to teach you the base of the philosophy, but we can think of how better to rephrase this in our own language. Like the masses have increased their ability to use nature, right? Enrich their knowledge, develop the productive forces, or overcome the fetters of nature, and steadily raise the levels of their ideological consciousness and culture. Modern science and technology, progressive ideas, and culture, which have been developed by human society, are without exception the result of the historical struggles of the masses. So, like, of course, the idea of socialism itself, right, is the result of the historical struggle of the masses to realize independence. The transformation of nature and humanity, that is, the historic cause of freeing the masses from the fetters of nature and outdated ideas and culture, and developing them into powerful beings capable of dominating nature and real possessors of revolutionary ideas and culture, can be fully undertaken and achieved with success only under socialism, where the working masses are masters of society. Under socialism, where the question of revolutionary change in the social system has already been resolved, in the struggle for independence, the major tasks are to reshape nature and to re educate people, to emancipate the masses who have been freed from social oppression, from the shackles of nature and the outdated ideas and culture. When the work of transforming nature and re educating people push forward in a complete way on the basis of steadily consolidating the socialist system, the independence of the masses will be more completely realized in all spheres. Today, the struggle to defend the masses' independence assumes an international character. Since the forces of imperialism, which oppress independence, are allied on an international scale, the struggle to oppose imperialist domination and oppression and defend independence too cannot but be an international undertaking. Because of the community of their historical backgrounds and interests, the formerly oppressed nations and peoples who have been subjected to colonial slavery, with their independence and sovereignty downtrodden by imperialism, are united together on the same front of struggle to oppose imperialism and defend independence. All countries, all nations, and peoples the world over that advocate independence must struggle jointly, in close unity, under the revolutionary banner of anti imperialism and independence. It means land back, by the way. This is the only way to abolish the imperialist world order, which is based on inequality and full of contradictions, like settler colonialism, for example, and to set up a new international relationship based on independence, equality amongst countries and nations. And again, to reiterate, land back, aka liberation, is so important because, as this handsome mustached man once said, communism knows that the union of peoples in a single world economic system is possible only on the basis of mutual confidence and voluntary agreement, and that the road to the formation of a voluntary union of peoples lies through the separation of the colonies from the integral pluralist whole through the transformation of the colonies into independent states. Which implies, of course, the right to succession. Hard to believe how right he was, right? The age-long, ceaseless struggle of the masses for independence can win its ultimate aim by building socialism and communism. The struggle for socialism and communism is the highest stage of the struggle for independence. It is a struggle to end once and for all the exploitation of humanity by humanity, the oppression of class by class, and the domination of state by state in human society, and to wipe out all the remnants of the old societies handed down through history, and to finally free the peoples from their shackles. I like that part. To wipe out all the remnants of the old societies handed down through history. By that we mean European history. And abolish wait. In a communist society, the masses of the people will lead a completely independent life as masters of nature and society and as true masters of their own destiny. Oh yeah, I've seen people do similar things. It seems effective enough. Defending independence is an absolute requirement of humanity as a social being and their inalienable fundamental right. It is natural that humanity regards independence as their life and soul, combats any encroachment on their independence. The masses rise in the revolutionary struggle for the independence against the oppressors. For the sake of independence, they devote all their creative talents and energies to the building of socialism and communism. If independence is to be defended, an independent stand must firmly be maintained in the revolution and construction. As the leader instructed, the independent stand is the fundamental stand that must be adhered to in the revolution and construction. Sticking to this stand is the requirement of the revolutionary struggle and the struggle for independence. The independent stand is a thoroughly revolutionary stand, a working class stand. Working class is the most independent class which struggles to emancipate itself by its own initiative and to become the master of their own destiny. The cause of socialism and communism, the historic cause of the working class aimed at completely realizing the independence of the masses of people. Any stands which are contrary to the independent stand are alien to the working class and stand of the masses, and they are harmful to the cause of socialism and communism. The independent stand By the way, this is what Trotskyism is opposed to, is that independent stand. Permanent revolution, as I constantly tell you, Trotsky's permanent revolution is to force the colonized countries to learn how to do revolution from the civilized countries, quote unquote. The independent stand finds expression, and look, and just before I continue again, it's not just a problem that was with Trotsky as well, right? It was a problem that infected huge portions of the leadership of the USSR. And remember that while Stalin was the chairman, he wasn't the sole leader, right? He didn't make decisions all by himself. And there was collective leadership in the party. And unfortunately, like the types of people like Khrushchev were there in the time of Stalin. They were there in the time of Lenin. Like Trotsky represents one problematic individual that they got rid of, but there was other ones who, whether they followed Trotskyism directly or whether they just had the same sort of white chauvinist ideas as Trotsky, was, again, it's somewhat irrelevant, right? The fact is they were there all along. It's just that when they managed to get even further into the leadership, they were able to accelerate like the undermining of USSR. But how long it takes shows you like how deep of a struggle it was as well, right? Thank you, Frank. The independent stand finds expression in the exercise of the rights as masters of the revolution and construction. This means that the masses of the people handle all problems of the revolution and construction in their interests, according to their own independent judgment and decisions. The right to deal with these problems belongs solely to the people, the masters of the country concerned. All questions related to the revolution and construction in a country must naturally be disposed of by the judgment and decision of the people of that country. This is the only way the people of each country can defend their interests and carry through their will and desire. People of each country must not tolerate any foreign pressure or interference. Failing to resolve one's own problems by one's own decision under pressure or in bondage to others means losing one's right as master. Following the will of others and acting against one's own interests means giving up one's rights as master. The independent stand is expressed in fulfilling the responsibility as masters. This signifies that the masters resolve all questions in the revolutionary struggle and construction work on their own responsibility and initiative, as befit masters. As the revolution and construction are their own undertakings, they ought to resolve all problems arising in these undertakings by their own initiative on the principle of self-reliance. Now, one might receive aid from others in the revolution and construction, but in any case, the main thing is one's own initiative. Trying to get one's work done by others or to get one's own problems solved by others is tantamount to shirking one's responsibility as master and relinquishing one's position as such. Only when one upholds the independent stand can one always resolve the question of revolution in one's country, the question of one's nation, in accordance with one's views and conviction, and in the revolutionary spirit of self-reliance, and carry out the revolution and construction successfully, whatever the circumstances. And again, this is so important because, well, not only was the Comintern, like, even after the Communist International was dissolved, the habit of following what the Communist Party of Russia was doing, but even worse than that, the West did that right up until after the overthrow and still wants to follow, like, wants to follow the same lines that essentially led to the undermining and the overthrow of USSR when they haven't even achieved any sort of like state power, to say nothing of like revolutionary policy in their program, which in most parties simply does not exist. I hate to break it to you. At least not as they exist right now. The people of each country must not only oppose aggression and subjugation in firm defense of their independence, but should also fight against imperialism and dominationism, which trample upon the independence of other peoples. Only when one opposes such encroachment on one's own independence and the act of trampling others can it be said that one is standing truly in defense independence. Have to be internationalist as well. The revolutionary struggle of the masses against imperialism, dominationism, trample upon independence, for the victory of the cause of socialism and communism, steadily being strengthened and developed. Nothing can stem the current of historical development, which demands independence and advances on the road of independence. Not only today, but also the future belongs entirely to the people who are struggling for independence. Thank you, Cinnamon. And there you go. That's part 3. Next time we read, we're going to be on the socio-historical movement is also a creative movement of the masses. You remember we defined creativity in terms of Juche, which is humanity's abilities, of course, to transform nature, to make new things that are not ready-made in nature. That's the next section that we're going to deal with. Then after that, we have the people's consciousness of independence plays the decisive role in revolutionary struggle. And then we will be on to the guiding principles of the Juche idea. So what we're on now, what we've been reading here, the historical principles, is that Juche analysis of social history, while these guiding principles will be essentially like what is necessary for revolution to succeed in general. This isn't laying out specifically the Korean Revolution. The guiding principles of Juche idea are meant to be much like the principles of Leninism, a generalized from the experience of Korea, but also from the lessons learned from Eastern Europe and other revolutionary societies, right? Then finally, we have the final chapter, and we'll be on to the next work, which is on some problems of the ideological foundation of socialism. Then on having correct viewpoint and understanding of Juche philosophy, and finally, the Juche philosophy is an original revolutionary philosophy. Then once that's done, we'll be on to another work. So what did we all think? Good reading? Good book? Learning anything about Juche? Getting juiced? Are you all are you all juiced up? The real question, I guess, one must ask. All juiced up now. No, I'm juiced. Matt's juiced. Does that make us juicers?